Welcome back to another episode. It's been a week. It's been a wild week since our last episode, so
Wild,
we'll
wild
just
week.
jump right in. Let's clear the air up on something first. We started our rankings last week, and we have not got those out this week. And that is simply for the fact that every time we make a ranking, our top teams lose, and we have to redo the rankings. So we'll get them to
Absolute
y'all eventually.
chaos. One thing I will give you a sneak peek. I don't know what Grants is going to look like, but the Northwestern Wildcats are sneaking up on some people, and Buie and Co. are in my top 25.
I will say Boo Boo is in my top 25 names list for sure.
He's probably number one. I don't know. Dane Danger is pretty good too.
I like Supreme Cook.
Yeah, that's a good one too. I don't know. There's a lot of good ones in college basketball this year.
So we just said a lot of teams we had in our rankings and that are in the AP rankings, any rankings you want, lost this week. Which top 25 team losing are you taking the most away from this week?
Definitely Memphis. I mean, they've lost four in a row now, all to horrible teams, like absolutely horrible teams. And they had that one kid. What's his last name? Green, I think it is. Power forward. He left the team early in the year for an unknown reason. They went 10-0 without him. He comes back. They have lost the last four games to horrible teams, and yeah, now they're a bubble team, and I don't even think they're going to get in. They're probably not one of the top three teams in the American anymore, let alone a top 25 team that they were. Um, Losing to Rice at home is that's definitely something I didn't have on my bingo card.
I think it's Josh Pate who always says it on his football podcast. He says you can't lose to food.
They did.
So adding on that, piggybacking off that, what team that's currently out of your rankings or the AP top 25 do you think should be in it? You're seeing the most out of. I know you hit on Northwestern, so let's leave that for later. What team outside of Northwestern who's not ranked impresses you the most?
I kind of hit on it a little bit, but the North Texas Mean Green needs some talking about, dude. Uh, they have six losses, but they're all the very good teams. Like they haven't had a bad loss on their resume. They got to be a tournament team. I don't know if they're a top 25 team, but they're a tournament team. Another one that deserves a look is Princeton. Princeton's good, and probably the best Ivy League school we've seen in a while. And if you're looking for a team to buy some stock in to make a run, it's Princeton because they're an Ivy League school, so they're probably going to be a 12, 11 or 12 seed probably in the NCAA tournament. I would think probably not 11 because that's usually the first four, so a 12 seed most likely. Uh, and yeah, that 12-5 game, I think there's going to be a lot of people picking Princeton, and there should be.
One team I do want to throw in there is the South Carolina Gamecocks. If you look at the SEC rankings right now, they're hanging around up there in the top three or four teams, and no one's really talking about them. They throttled Kentucky. They're winning all the games they're supposed to. They're in every game, even if they lose. Like, that's a good squad. I don't think it's getting
Yeah,
enough love.
yeah. Their issue for me though is that they took too many bad losses early because it's kind of like baseball. You think of college basketball, you think of well, who's ever hot at the end. Usually makes a run, but in reality, it's more like baseball. College basketball season is where like in baseball, all 162 count. When in basketball, every game you play counts from the first official game of the season to the last one. Obviously, that last one means a little bit more. But if you don't play good in games 1 through 20, games 21 through 40 don't matter. And yeah, their games like 1 through 10, a lot to not like about that. So yeah, I'm going to just leave it at that.
I mean, they're still what, three or four losses They don't have many.
Yeah, it's just the losses they took. I'm like,
I mean,
another team that isn't getting a lot of talk to, kind of feeding off of that staying in the SEC, is Ole Miss because they took a little lump after they started the season. What was it, 17-0 or 13-0? I can't remember.
they started really high. Yeah,
Yeah, and yeah, Chris Beard's got them playing well again, and they're a team to watch. Ole
I
Miss
will
is good,
say
and they're well
the
coached.
it is not an easy stretch the next 3 weeks for Ole Miss by any means. They have Auburn at home, then they go to South Carolina and to Kentucky.
Yeah, if they can somehow take 2 out of 3 there, they might make my top 25 again.
I think I hit on it last week. They're one of the teams I left out in last week's ranking, but I think they're right there, like you just kind of hit on.
Yeah, most definitely. They've taken their lumps, don't get me wrong, but I really like that squad. They're well coached, they're disciplined, and they play hard and just win games. Simple as that. Kind of like you said about South Carolina.
So we were talking about it a little bit before, and we were texting about it today. Let's jump right in back to the Big Ten, Purdue and Northwestern. You've had some strong opinions on that game you were texting me about, so let's hear them, air them out.
That's what that game made me feel like. Just a big, deep breath. 3-point percentage and 3-point shots. Northwestern. 2-point percentage, 2-point shots. Northwestern. Rebounds. I believe it was close, but I think it was Northwestern. Don't get me wrong. Assist. Northwestern. Free throw percentage. Northwestern. I could go on and on and on. The difference in this game, Northwestern shot 8 free throws. Made 6 of them, but shot 8 free throws. Purdue shot 41 freaking free throws.
46 according
Or
to
4,
ESPN. I'm looking at it
46.
right now.
Sorry, I think they made 28, right?
29 of 46.
Difference in the game. And don't get me wrong, like we talked about it before. Zach Edey is so hard to officiate because he's so big, so strong. But there is no way in a game that Bowie is playing point guard for somebody that a team only shoots 8 free throws and he doesn't shoot one in an entire game. Northwestern is one of the most physical teams in the Big Ten. So is Purdue. That game was very physical. How does one team only shoot 8 free throws? I don't understand. The foul
That's your that's
discrepancy is
your
horrible.
that's your padlock stat for the game. I mean, you're not I don't care who you are, you're not winning a game if you get outshot at the free throw line by what is that? 38?
Yeah, and it's not their fault. Like that's what I'm trying to say. I mean, I've given the Big Ten officials a lot of flack for years, but this was by far the worst officiated game I have ever seen in Power Five since I've been watching college basketball, which was a really long time ago. There was a hook at the beginning of the game on Edie trending on Twitter that they called. Not only did they call the foul shooting, they called it on Northwestern, and they called the foul shooting when it should have been on the floor, and that was 2 free throw makes. Like, and then at the end of the game, in overtime, at the end of the game, Lance Jones was cornered by 2 Northwestern players, completely cornered, had no way out. Hooks, easy hook call, right in front of the referee. They don't call it. And Northwestern would have had a chance to go down and tie. They were down 2. That's the difference in the game. And that's exactly, and I mean, Chris Collins gets ejected and comes storming the court, and rightfully so. And the best thing he did was still go shake Matt Painter's hand and go give Edie a hug. And he said, we were fouling Edie. I'm not going to say we weren't, but he said, you're telling me at the other end that we weren't getting fouled. He said, there's no game, no world that any game Boo Buie plays at least 40 minutes in that he should never take a trip to the free throw line. Probably not even 30 minutes.
It's hard to disagree. One stat I will bring up that was a major discrepancy in Purdue's favor was offensive rebounds. They out-rebounded them in total by 14, and they had 9 more offensive rebounds,
Yeah,
which
and
it pales in comparison to the free throws, but in a close game, went to overtime, that can make a big difference.
yeah, and I get that, but like I said, Western outplayed them in every facet of the game except for the fact that they just didn't get to the free throw line. And Purdue got there at an absurd rate. Like, I don't care who you had, never shot 40 free throws with Kofi Coburn. And I could make a case that he was probably harder to guard than Edie because he was so much stronger than anybody. Like, he was basically Shaq all over again. And that's what Chris Collins said. He's like, I never coached against Shaq, but I watched him as a little kid. You know, I coached against Kofi. He was like, Zach Edey is close to the realm of those guys, but he's more of a Yao Ming. Like, he's not that dominant to the point that, I mean, he's one of those guys that regular season, I've said it before, he gets the benefit of the Big Ten whistle. They really cater to him. He gets the star treatment. And no other big man in Big Ten really history has ever really gotten it like Edie. It's kind of crazy, and yeah, and that's why Purdue is so susceptible to the upset in the postseason because they run through the Big Ten because Edie can do whatever he wants.
Let's uh let's switch gears a little bit. You're getting worked up about this one, so we'll switch gears. We'll
Hold
tone you
on,
down.
hold
Okay,
on.
okay.
See this? My mini hoop.
Yeah.
This is what happens. Purdue faces a team in a game with actual referees over and over and over again.
I like the visual. So let's take it to a subject a subject that will lighten your mood a little bit. Tell me what's happening in the land of the Flying Illini.
Well, there's a lot going on. Uh, there's a big story that pretty well everybody was talking about. Every one of Illinois' players, when Shannon came back, did not stop producing. Really, a big reason why they were struggling there at first was because Shannon wasn't playing that well yet. You know, he was kind of finding his feet. Well, in that second half against Ohio State, he found his feet, 23 on the game. And if you watch that game at all, second half Illini is the Illini that we're going to see more often. I think it is. And that was without Coleman Hawkins, might I add. Uh, they may come back and win the Big Ten. There's a big tilt, which we'll get to later on Sunday with Wisconsin and Purdue. Uh, that's going to be a big one, especially if Purdue can take down Wisconsin, because then Illinois is only going to be a game behind both of them. And they have both of them still yet to play on the schedule. So Flying Illini is flying high right now.
Who is next for them?
Uh, they have, I believe, let me look here. I believe it's Nebraska on Sunday. Yeah, Nebraska on Sunday. And then here's the one that could hurt them. Or no, sorry. And they've got Michigan State the next Saturday, and that Tuesday is Michigan. But the game that could potentially be a trap game is when they go to Maryland on Saturday, February 17th. That, for whatever reason, always seems to be a trap game for the Illini. So it'll be interesting to see. If they can pull that one out, they've got a really good shot to win the Big Ten. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I guess it's my turn to talk about my team now.
Absolutely. Let's
The
hear the
outlook
hog heaven.
the outlook is still not very bright in Fayetteville, for being honest, but they did pick up a win in Columbia on yesterday night, last night. Uh, what I found really interesting was obviously Devo's gone. He stepped away from the team, but we did not see L. Ellis and we did not see Trevin Brazil last night. And the team put up 91 points and won the game. It,
What have I been saying to you all
I
year?
don't I don't want to there's a lot of things going on right now. If you're on Twitter, you've seen some wild stuff about this team the last week. I'm not going to go into any details on that. I really want to because it's funny, but I can't do it.
Yeah, we can get
No,
into a
we
little
we
bit.
actually we actually can't bring it up on here. It's bad.
That's why I wanted to say it.
I think you know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say though, there has been rumors swirling about Musselman possibly leaving, and his wife got on Twitter and tried her best to
Nix that
squash.
real fast.
She
Yeah.
squashed that. Queen Danielle spoke up. I don't think he'll leave at least for next season, but I could see it. He can go anywhere he wants. He's a good coach. But for right now, he's got to right this ship, trying a lot of different lineups. It worked last night. I think they're on the road. I think they're on the road at LSU Saturday. Every game from here is a must win, especially the two home games next week into next week. So that'll be Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday.
It's bleak, but there's an outside chance they could sneak into the first four.
Yeah, I think you can't lose any games at home from now on. You can't lose to road teams who you can't lose on the road to teams that are under 500 for
Yeah,
one.
you
And
can't
then
lose
you've
to
got they've got to
LSU, for
win.
example.
They've got to win at least two games in the SEC tournament to even have a shot. But I mean, if there's anyone who could pull it off, it would be Eric Musselman. But this roster is so volatile right now. Like you don't know what lineup you're gonna get night to night. It's hard to say what's gonna happen. But at least we beat Mizzou. We're not the worst team in the SEC.
Well, one thing I would like to add to that is Brazil. I should say that wasn't the guy that I've been saying is the issue. Brazil was hurt though. That's part of why I think he was out of the lineup. But I'm telling you, something about L. Ellis. He brought down Louisville last year, and clearly he's bringing down the Razorbacks. But hey, it's been done before. I mean, look back at when Syracuse got in as an 11 with Buddy Boeheim and went to the
Hey,
Final Four.
you know I'm a closet Cuse fan.
And went to the Final Four. Uh, they had a season about like this where they went on a run through February and snuck in, to the first four. It could happen, and don't be surprised because, like I said, if Musselman goes to a rotation without L. Ellis, and Devo was a great hog. He gave a lot to your program, but he just did not go well with this year's squad, and really hasn't went well since Jalen Williams left. Him and Jalen were boys, and he's been down in the dumps since Jalen left. And
One thing I do want
it's
to add is someone who doesn't get talked about enough, and he was there last year, got sparse playing time, but that's Jalen Graham. He's been starting, and when he like dude can get a bucket when he wants to get a bucket, but he's starting to figure himself out, kind of on the defensive end of things. When him and Makai Mitchell play well together, it's a completely different team. And last night they did. I think Graham he was in double digits scoring wise, and Makai Mitchell had a really solid double double.
yeah, I
And
think Mitchell.
when they play big physical ball, that's what part of what this team is missing, and it changes the entire outlook of what they can do.
Yeah, one thing I wanna say is that, Mitchell might have been a big piece that they were missing too in the lineup because early on in the year, if you followed along at all, I mean, I know you do, but, Mitchell wasn't always getting the most playing time. And, here lately, he's been starting, and I think it's kinda turned their season around. They've been playing much, much better, excuse me, but, had some of that barbecue chicken coming up there. But, yeah, and I think, yeah, he's kinda playing the, Jalen Williams role. Not as good of a shooter, obviously, not as good of a player overall, but, he's been playing that role, and I think the way that Musselman teams like to play on offense, I think it's important to have that piece. It's not like a, Underwood situation where he was playing with a big man and really shouldn't have been, you know?
Mhm.
Musselman teams more need one.
I do wanna point out some stats. First of all, they only shot 6 threes. They went 4 for 6 from 3 for the game. That's more in tune with the Musselman teams we've been seeing. I think that was a big issue before. You had guys like Ellis, guys like Battle, who were just they were chucking them, dude. They were chucking them from Fort Smith, trying to think they would go in Fayetteville, and it just wasn't happening. And then assists, that is another thing that they have been lacking for the last 3 months, is they were not passing the ball. It was a lot of one-on-one stuff, which I get. That's what a lot of systems are based off of now, and it's turning into that in college basketball. But I love seeing that many assists. I didn't get to watch the game. I was stuck at school. I was telling you about that earlier, but just this box score, it makes me happy and gives me that slight glimmer of hope that they can crush later on.
Yeah, one thing I do wanna add, the assist thing, I think where the issue is, yes, college basketball is going to a one-on-one game, but I feel it's more like how Illinois is playing, the booty ball type. I think teams have kinda mimicked that this year and, started doing that since Underwood teams saw Underwood be so successful just creating a mismatch, and I mean, that's what's happening, but the difference is, like, teams like Illinois are still getting assists because even though they're playing that one-on-one booty ball or whatever, when teams come double, then they find the open man, and that's where you get your open threes to take. And I think Arkansas was playing like Matthew Meyer basketball last year, dribble up the court, shimmy shake, step back, brick.
I do wanna add, just to kinda tone down my expectations a little bit, Mizzou is bad. They are really bad.
Yeah.
So, we can't take that for granted. I mean, I'm talking up on the Hogs. They did play a good game, but Mizzou is still really bad.
Can we talk about that for a second? Is this another Quanzo Martin situation, or is this a blip in the script? Because Dennis Gates, I thought, he was going to, when he came in year one last year, beat Illinois, had a really good squad, played well, won a lot of games. And, he landed a big assistant coach hire in Kyle Smith Peters, who was the head coach at John A. Logan College, won a lot of games, won a national title there, I believe. Uh, so, good recruiter there. But then this year, they landed a lot of good recruits, but it's been awful basketball. And like I don't understand it. Like what I'm getting at, I guess, is it gonna be like Kwanzaa where he rides the other coaches' recruits and a few transfers in year one and wins some games he shouldn't, and then kind of tones it down and ends up being a very average to very bad program for the next 4 years before getting fired, or do you think this is just a blip in the radar and they're going to be good again next year?
It's really hard to say. One thing I will hit on, like, when I was watching over the summer, they were getting transfers in. Like, yes, they got good transfers, but I take a guy like Connor Vanover, for example. Went to California, didn't really produce there, came to Arkansas, did nothing at Arkansas, went to Oral Roberts, did really good, and then he gets brought back to the SEC and he plays a little bit for him, but like he doesn't there's no rhyme or reason to as why he's on the team. Like he doesn't fit in here or there with this team. And
No, and he
I kind of see that with several of your transfers. Like it was almost like Dennis Case was looking like auto draft on fantasy league. Like this is the best available guy, we're taking him. And
yeah,
there's no
because
rhyme or reason to a lot
well,
of it.
Vanover is a guy that needs to be in a specific system. And well, you remember I hated him when he was at Arkansas. I used to text you complaining
I hated
about
him
him
too.
all the time. But yeah, like especially in Dennis Gates' system, he's a guy that likes to play fast, likes to get up and press. How do you press with Connor Vanover on the floor?
He runs like a baby giraffe. He like
And he's
he has no
slow.
athleticism
Like
whatsoever.
he is not even he's barely a mid-major basketball player. How is he in the
I
SEC?
will say like he found his niche at Oral Roberts a little bit. He did really well last year.
Yeah, because he's
But
playing off of Max Absmus.
I don't think his skill set translates to the Power Five very well.
Yeah.
And he's shown that twice and now three times coming to Mizzou this year. But I guess I didn't really answer your question. I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if he ended up being like Quanzo Martin, simply for the fact that it's Missouri, where you can be good. You can be good one year, and then it might be another 10 years before you're that good again. It's not like it's a Power Five school. It's in the SEC, but they've never, at least in my lifetime, they've never really been a destination for top guys to go.
Yeah, and it's not a situation like Illinois and Arkansas was when uh, Underwood and Musselman went to those schools respectively, where it's a place that used to have, a lot of history there and just hadn't been good recently. This is a situation where historically this hasn't been a great program. So it's hard to win there.
Yeah, which I think is funny if you think about it. You're in the middle of Kansas City and St. Louis, and you're in proximity to several other basketball hotspots, and you can't be good.
Well,
But
yeah, but I mean, especially when Illinois is good, Illinois is getting all the St. Louis guys they want, and the guys that they don't want go to Duke or Michigan State because they get the guys that want to stay close to home. And
mm,
I mean, it's hard when you're around a lot of basketball country and you're not really a basketball school.
yeah, and I would say they do a lot of recruiting battles with probably Kansas as well. And if you're a Missouri, you're not going to win that battle with the Kansas.
Yeah, I mean, all the Kansas
Really,
City
you're not
kids
going to
go to
win it. You're not
KU.
going to win it with Iowa. You're not going to win it with Kansas, Illinois, Arkansas.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, all the KC kids for the most part go to KU. It's just the way it is.
Sorry, I got an important text here. I'm not ignoring you. Uh, let's let's move on from that. That's enough slamming on Mizzou. Noted Mizzou haters here, by the way. But let's look ahead to this weekend. What is give me two games that really stand out to you for this weekend.
Well, I'm actually gonna. Is it all right if I give you four? There's
Shoot,
four top 10
let's
matchups.
let's do it.
Uh, First of all, at 3 o'clock on Saturday on ESPN, we've got number four Houston, AP number four Houston, at AP number eight Kansas. That ought to be a doozy. I expect Kansas to win that one, being at home and like we've talked about before, not really sold on Houston yet. I need to see more, even though they're 19-2, but like for whatever reason, it's just not an impressive 19-2 for me, at least. Then we've got, of course, always a great game, Duke at North Carolina, and this one's a 7 out of 3 in the AP. That one's at 5:30 on ESPN. So I mean, back-to-back games there on ESPN. Uh, that'll be fun ones. And then after that one, we got another doozy on ESPN. We've got number 5 Tennessee at number 10 Kentucky. So three top 10 games there, back to back to back on Saturday on ESPN. And it's a shame that it's on ESPN because their graphics are horrible. I wish that CBS or Fox had these games, but well, it'll have to do. And then on Sunday, there's one game that I hit on a little bit earlier. That's probably might be the game of the week, and that's number 2 Purdue At number 6, Wisconsin. If Purdue can somehow go in and steal one at Wisconsin, that puts them in line to possibly share the title, especially if Illinois can find a way to beat both of those teams late in the year when they play them. So it's got a chance to cause some chaos in the Big Ten. And once again, I said, don't sleep on Northwestern. They got a good record in Big Ten play, too. So what do you think about those games?
I mean, if even if you're a casual fan looking, those are the games you're going to be drawn to. I mean, that's a heck of a lineup. I do want to throw one game in there that slips under most people's radar, but I could see a potential upset here. There could be a storm brewing, and that is UConn at St. John's. And I will not be surprised whatsoever if St. John's can pull off that upset on Saturday morning.
Yeah, the only part that sucks, and this is the last year I think that it's going to be, is that it's at Madison Square Garden. Uh, Coach Pitino's already came out and said it's going to the Carneseca after this year, and I love it.
So, that being said, we'll close it out on this, Noah. What in the past week made you clutch your pearls?
Well, I'm going to go with last night. We touched on all the teams we're high on or whatever, even if we're not high on, but had them in our top 25, keep losing. It's time to talk about a little Boise State Bronco and Mr. Max Rice. 35 points last night. We're going to bring this back out. Splash, splash, splash. Over and over and over again. Just absolute monster kahunas. I unfortunately didn't get to tweet about it last night, but yeah, definitely something I wanted to hit on the pod. Max Rice from Boise State taking down New Mexico at the Lobo House.
Right on. So for me, this goes right along with what you talked about last week. I think you talked about it last week. Talked about it with someone, doesn't matter. I've got to go with those students from BYU getting kicked out for writing horns
Yes.
down on themselves. And I have a prop here, and this represents Texas because they are soft as some Charmin. What do you think is going to happen when you join the SEC? It's going to be horns down every night, and there ain't going to be no penalties for it.
Hey, you
No,
ready? Did you
I'm
see what
getting
I think
sick
it
and
was?
tired of these babies at the University of Texas getting their panties in a wad because of
Hey,
this.
I I think it was TCU. It was somebody's Barstool, like account or whatever, like the school account. Bought like it was like 200 and some shirts that say horns down on them to give out to wear to the game.
Dude,
So that's
I
coming
can't
up
wait.
soon.
I can't wait until they step into like Neville Arena, Auburn, or they step into Bud Walton in Fayetteville next year, and there's just 5,000 students just horns down in their face the whole game. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, well, what I don't understand is, in football, nobody talks about it. People were horns down in Quinn Ewers all year long. Like, why did it all of a sudden become an issue? Because Rodney Terry was like, I hate
Garmin soft boy.
it. Just regular soft or ultra soft?
This is the old triple ply, man. It's super soft. I just
All
wasted
right.
like $5 of toilet paper just to demonstrate how soft Texas is.
Uh, Tough lives living as college kids, that's for sure.
All
All right.
right.
Well,
Well, I think that closes us out for the week. And it's
yeah,
been a fun one.
I think it does. One thing we want to note, it's not confirmed yet, but we probably will not be doing a podcast uh, next week. That's Super Bowl Sunday uh, that weekend. And we're probably going to start pushing our podcast to Sundays after Super Bowl Sunday, most likely. That works better for both of our schedules. And I think it'll also be easier for us to do the rankings too, don't you think,
Yeah,
Grant?
that's no kidding. It's too volatile during the week. We can't do it.
Yeah, like I said, the Clutch Burl 25 and some. We should get that out to you tomorrow, hopefully, before the big games of the weekend start, and the same thing happens over and over again.
Yeah,
And then after that, we're going to start. We may go ahead and do another one on Sunday after the weekend games. I don't know what Grant thinks, but get it out Monday. Goal should be to get the recording and the power rankings out Monday. Uh, and yeah, so another episode presented by Caleb Moss and Media. We thank him for all his help. I thank Grant for coming on with me, and I'm sure he thanks me too. I'm sorry,
that's
that
a
was kind
bold
of cheesy.
assumption, man. That's a bold assumption.
Yeah, I mean he probably don't like me coming on anyway. He's probably like, get the hell out of here. But
This
yeah,
guy.
so another great episode. Glad to have you all listening in. Make sure you give us a follow and a subscribe. Thank you.